You know, I've always wondered what the population of our Minecraft city is, and I've also wondered if every single one of my subscribers could have their own apartment. So in today's video, instead of painstakingly counting every single apartment, I'm going to apply some assumptions that I use in the world of planning, and we will figure out a population estimate for the Minecraft city of Sequoia. And then at the very end, we will compare it to the number of subscribers and see how it pairs up. So, let's get started. So with the help of the Distant Horizons mod, I have gone ahead and taken a screenshot of the Minecraft city from about 10,000 feet above. So we can see that East Village is hiding over here. You have downtown with all the skyscrapers. Way over here, this is our warp builds where we temporarily build things. But we're going to get into the assumptions in just a second. This is the Vancouver section. And over here, you have Point Grey with the lower density and those houses. So going up here, this is one Minecraft apartment per subscriber, sort of, but not really. Some of you guys are going to have to double up, so bear with me. So 142,794 subscribers using a standard East Village floor, which means a standard East Village floor is flying down here, and we can see these buildings are all the same size. So one East Village floor is a unit of measurement, which is this size right here. One East Village floor is 142 square blocks, and we are assuming that each of those floors can contain 6 occupants. Therefore, we can assume 24 square blocks of residential floor area per occupant. So that's how we're going to calculate it. So following these steps, we are going to determine the total residential floor area across the entire city, and then we're going to divide it by this unit of 24 square blocks per occupant for the final population estimate. Taking a look at our assumptions, we are assuming that we are not including hotel rooms except the residential suites inside hotels. If we don't actually know what the split between the suites and the hotel rooms is, we are assuming that one half is dedicated to these suites. However, since a lot of these buildings are based on real life, if I can find actual information about the splits, then I will use that instead. Oh, I have a hand now. Ooh. We are going to ignore warp builds on the far east side over here. These are all temporary. Any buildings that are under construction, whether it be Minecraft version of under construction or we actually built it with a crane so it looks like it's under construction, we're ignoring that. Oftentimes when we're building, we have floating template builds to be copy and pasted. We're ignoring those as well. However, if there is a building that is floating in the air intended to be put directly into the ground that is not a template to be copy pasted, we are including that. An example of this will be the Shangri-La building, which we can see is floating above the ground, but it is not intended to be copy-pasted because there is only one of these buildings, and this is more than likely where this final building is going to go. So yes, we would include this. Same idea across the street. This is the Paradox Tower by Mata. It's pretty cool. But I'll give you a more detailed tour in a later video. This one has a hotel and suites, so we're going to have to split that up. We do also have to consider some of the cabins that are way up here off the edge of the screen that go way deep into the mountains. So in the case of these cabins, they can be found somewhere way up here, and there are a handful of them, but we will account for those. So I have gone ahead and marked everything up, which took a very long time. Let's start over here by Point Grey. It's a little bit grainy, so what I did is I went in here. You can see my math. Assume one floor is 250 square blocks times 26 houses. You have 24 that are 2 floors and then 2 that are 1 floor, blah, blah, blah. Here's the math. Here's the total 12,500 square blocks for the houses. Same idea here. These are townhouses, some more down here. But you can see that I just kind of put them everywhere. So this one is 13,600 square blocks for the residential only. Now in this particular case, we can see on the ground floor that it is actually commercial. So the residential floors are these top 4, but this bottom one is not residential. So you do have to take that into account and ignore the bottom floor. Although I guess maybe in the back there's some residential, but let's leave that out. Now here's an example of those floating house templates. These ones are clearly not going directly in the ground right here. They were copy and pasted all the way over here and also over here. So these ones in the ground do count, but those ones do not. Therefore, I put a giant X through it. You also have some templates over here, which I have ignored. Moving over this way, you do have a handful of others, 2,400 square blocks, another one that's 900. Anything with an X, again, that is either not a building, it is under construction, or it is an office, so it does not have any residential. In this particular case, this is the Vancouver House building. Here's some assumptions and some math. Read it if you want. Here is what the actual building looks like in-game. Built by Mata. Very cool building. Over here we have the Charleston, based on the Charleston in Vancouver, which in Minecraft looks a little something like this. Now, same idea with the Paradox Tower. Here's some math. And the Shangri-La. Here's some more math, which again are both a mix of hotels and suites. This is the Paradox Tower, and this is the Shangri-La, both based on Vancouver, British Columbia. Up here, we have ones in Cole Harbour, the Harborside Park Towers 1 and 2, for a total residential area of 102,600 square blocks. Now, something to consider, these are real-life buildings. Taking a look at Google Maps, we can find them right here. Now, in real life, it is obviously a 1-to-1 scale compared to real life. If you don't know that, you have bigger problems. But in the Minecraft city of Sequoia, we build at a 1.5-to-1 scale, meaning to scale up this floor area, we have to take the total residential floor area and multiply it by 1.5 to the power of 2. That is how we calculate the equivalent square blocks. But with that being said, moving over here, these are all office. We've talked about this. There's some along Main Street here, just these couple of buildings on the upper floors are residential, but the remainder of these ones are all commercial or offices. So that is the west side of the city. Now we can move on to downtown and East Village. East Village looks a little something like this, which we'll talk about in just a second, and then downtown looks like this. So let's start with downtown. First of all, anything with an X, this is considered office space or non-residential. Here we have 53 West 53 in New York City. There you go. That's some math. That is the pointy one. I like the pointy one. This is Central Park Tower, 145,000 square blocks for residential. This is, again, scaled up at that 1.5 squared factor. This is 111 West 57th, also known as Steinway Tower. This has 66,000 square blocks of residential area at a 1.5-to-1 scale. Down here, here's some math. Here's more buildings, also more math. And, yep. Here you go. Lots of calculations. This one here is a hotel that I'm working on, and I will make a video on it at some point, but I do want to do some further analysis on it. I've made the assumption, even though it's not done yet, that half of it is residential suites for a total of almost 21,000 square blocks of residential space. Now, there's a couple more hiding down here, but I want to draw your attention to this small one. This says 28 square blocks. So if we fly into these towers here, first of all, you can see this hotel that is still a work in progress. But this 28 square block building is this one right here. This is the Luna residence, and it is indeed very small. There's a lot of animals inside of here, apparently. But it is very, very small, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, all right, cat, I get it. With that being said, that is the downtown section, and anything along 2nd Avenue going right up here, I have decided to actually shift into this overhead one right here. So let me walk you through this. Since a lot of these buildings are based on those East Village templates, instead of counting the number of square blocks like these ones over here, I've actually counted the number of floors, which I will then multiply by 6 occupants per floor. In total, this took about 2.5 hours to do, and yeah, there's a lot of them. Now, there are occasionally ones that do stick out above or below, so the majority of these are 5 floors tall. However, there's some that are 3, some that are 6, and some that go up even higher, like these ones over here. So for a lot of these, even accounting for the fact that some of these don't have residential ground floors, some of them are commercial, I went around and counted pretty much every single one of them. Now, of course, this is an estimate, so there may be slight errors, but I'd say this is pretty accurate. Now, you do have the FL, which is floors, and then you do have the SQB in this very thick marker because I could not make it any smaller, but you get the picture. Up here, this is an estimate. That's why I put the squiggly mark. I think it's called a tilde. I'm not sure. Some of you nerds out there probably know. But this is approximately 30 floors because a lot of this is unfinished. And you know what? Let's go take a look. So let's see. Where are we? Okay, so it's this section up here where a lot of these are indeed unfinished. They are either open like that or they don't quite have interior yet. I don't know if all of them will have interior, but I just kind of took some of them for granted and said, yeah, some of these are residential. So it is just an estimate for approximately this area right here. Now over here we can see what I was talking about. This one is a little bit taller, even though it is the same footprint approximately, with the exception of this, but you get the picture, right? But the majority of these ones over here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors, and they're pretty well even all the way across. Now to calculate the floor area estimates of buildings like this, what I would do is I take world edits, I find the area of 1 floor, and then I just count the number of floors. Now in this particular case, you do have some setbacks up here. So what I might do is just count all the way up till here and then ignore this top one because this one's a little bit smaller. And yeah, it's just an estimate. So it's what you got to do. Now, again, anything with an X through it is non-residential. So this is a school. This one is an office building. And this one is a giant cathedral. So it'll look a little something like this. Put the X right there. And this one right in the middle, this is a rec center. So you don't have anybody living in there. Now, the one last part is it doesn't fall into anything. This is a number of occupants. So right in the middle of the park, we have the original village, which I have gone around and I found 6 beds. So the occupancy of this village is 6. Now, if we scroll down here, you might notice that this says 0.5 floors. So if we go in game and fly from this village over here, there's actually a tiny little apartment up in this clock tower that was built by Beppis. So I just made the assumption that it is 0.5 floors equivalent of one of these. Therefore, you have 3 occupants up here. And if we go into the clock tower, looks a little something like this. Haha, nice view of the mountains. Nice view of the skyline over there. But yeah, Beppis, you did a fantastic job with this. This is very cool. What's up here? What do you got? Some stuff? Oh, little bed. Oh, okay, maybe... Are you gonna have 3 people in there? Never mind. I don't want to know. We're changing this to 1 occupant. Let's try this again. 1 arc. There you go. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to compile all of this and count it in Excel into a giant spreadsheet. So give me about an hour and I'll be right back. Okay, I have now tallied everything up and noticed that I missed a couple, so I also added those. I have split it up by neighborhoods. So first you have Point Grey, Fairview Kits, Granville Slopes, etc. We're going to go all the way down. So you have the neighborhoods, and then each of these 3, these are inputs based on those drawings. So the floors, the square blocks at 24 square blocks per occupant, and the individual number of occupants. So to find the sum of occupants based on each one of these line items, it goes a little something like this. So as an example, for a square blocks of 12,500, you have 520 occupants. So just scrolling through, Point Grey, Granville Slopes, Kits, Main Street, Cole Harbor, Downtown, East Village between 1st and 2nd Avenue, same thing between Avenue A and 1st, A and B, B and C, C and D, and the cabins for a grand total of the population of Sequoia of 59,994. So no, we are not close to the number of subscribers. What did I say it was? 142,994? Is that what it was? 142,794. Let's see how far we were off. Okay, so we were off by about 83,000. So either 83,000 of you have to unsubscribe or we have to build more. I'm going to go with build more. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt. I have a course called City Design 101. You should go check it out. It's on my website, alpine1.co. I'm going to go get building. Talk to you later.